Jenny, it's cold and it's grey and it's wet here in the UK. How is it where you are?
Hi, Spencer. Here is snowing.
It's snowing. So what is a lady from Ecuador doing in the middle of the US in the middle of a snowstorm? How did you get there? So Jenny runs the wonderful Connections chocolate, which you were one of our earliest South American makers, one of our first women makers, and we loved working with you. And we just wanted to hear, get everybody to sort of know a little bit from you about your amazing story, a little bit more about what your plans are now. But anyway, so Jenny, tell us about Connections and about you and how you got from Ecuador to the middle of America and a snowstorm.
Yeah, right. Chocolate. Everything is about chocolate and connections.
And connections.
Yeah. Well, yes, indeed, I am from Ecuador originally, and I came to the United States on 2006, and long time ago by now. And I had a cultural exchange. My background in Ecuador is actually hospitality. So again, through connections, through friends, I got to travel to New York and I get connected there with a chocolate maker. And that's how my story in chocolate actually started there. I was working with this company for over 5 years and pretty much doing sourcing in Ecuador and as well like learning about the cacao, because even being an Ecuadorian, actually I didn't know about the cacao and the importance of the Ecuadorian cacao in the world. So continue doing the sourcing, chocolate importing to the US. We used to craft chocolate also in New Jersey. And then we were selling the chocolate in the US and actually exporting to Europe as well. So that's how I pretty much got connected with the chocolate in my life, and now became my passion, my full-time job. And like that, yeah.
But as you were growing up in Ecuador, did you ever come across chocolate?
Yeah, definitely. Well, my two parents comes from small villages in Ecuador. My father comes from Riobamba and the coal area in Ecuador, and farming region as well. And my mom comes from the coast. The area where she comes from is called La Maná. And as children, we used to, of course, go in vacations to the coast, which is part of it, La Maná. And over there, my family, uncles, cousins, we used to play, in the plantations pretty much that they used to have. Of course, the small family producers also that they harvest until now cane sugar. They do their small batches of cane sugar. They do have agroforestry plantations now that we know the technical terms, like bananas, oranges, and cacao, of course. So that was my first connection with cacao when I was a child. So of course I love it, but I at that point I didn't have anything to be or with cacao until I actually got connected in the States with the cacao and learned everything that's behind it.
Yeah. And one of the interesting things about you, Jenny, is that you don't just do your amazing range of bars, but you also you've always, because you come out of the hospitality industry and you've always done a lot of couverture or sort of chocolate prepared for chefs. What made you think a little bit more about that?
Yeah, so this is super interesting because while I was working, for this business in the States, I had, of course, the possibility to analyze and to know a little bit about the market. And actually, I saw in the market mostly these big corporate brands that we all know. And it kind of called my attention because people, like everybody was talking about the origin of cocoa, about actually having like a different business or a different model or a different chocolate to be sourced from directly from origin, but wasn't many options. So that this kind of called my attention. And as I said before, like, I didn't know even much about cacao, and kind of understanding the importance of the cacao in the world. And then also seeing in the market that weren't many options of covertures of made in origin that actually were pretty much traceable, and like, that customers can even know the origin. I say, like, I want to do this, but it was a big dream that at that point I wasn't conscious of what it really meant, because it was only one person kind of trying to do this, like, okay, producing in origin, trying to, I say, like, well, I know the cacao farmers, like, they are my friends, like my family. I'm going to process everything in Ecuador. I'm going to bring it here to the United States, and then I'm going to sell it. I was like, that's easy. Like, in my mind, everything was like, done already. And I don't know how it happened, but things, I think, kind of came together. But actually, I started telling people, like, I'm gonna make chocolate. And that's how I get connected with a couple of chocolatiers. They said, okay, can you really do some coverture? I say, yes, how much do you want? So it's like the first order, I remember it was 500 kilos of Esmeraldas coverture. So I kind of taste myself over there. And yeah, that's how we started. And now we're doing that. It's been since 2013 until now. I would say it's been like a super a huge learning curve, because we're pretty much doing the whole value chain, kind of working directly with the producers, taking care, of course, hand in hand with the producers of the fermentation, because everything for us happens there, then processing everything in Ecuador, then bringing ourselves to the States. In the States, we have our own warehouse. We are shipping directly that to the final customer also. So we don't have any intermediaries over there. And it's been a big challenge.
Yeah, I mean, it's amazing that you decided to do that back in the early 2010s, and you as you sort of said, you had connections in Manabi, you had connections in Esmeraldas, you've developed lots of links with the farmers, but then you also developed recipes, and then you work with facilitators like Equatoriana to make it, and then you bring it to the States. And how did you though persuade pastry chefs and cooks that they should up sticks and try a different form of chocolate, Ecuadorian chocolate? I mean, how do they know about Esmeraldas, and how did you tell them about it, and how did you persuade them to sort of shift from using mass market couverture to using your very wonderful couverture?
Yeah, so that's super interesting. I will say that the first thing that we done it is through referrals. Like, most of our current customers have been able to kind of connect us with different peers in the industry. Before COVID, of course, we used to go to the craft chocolate shows as well. And of course, we used to give a lot of samples over there so people can as well taste the chocolates there. And then, of course, when we get to talk to a chocolatier or a chocolate maker, we have to go through everything that we do. As you say, Spencer, we started making these, with the cacao producers directly, pretty much. Like we source right now from 5 cacao cooperatives in Ecuador, in Guayaquil with Unocase, in Vinces with Apovinces, in Manabí with Fortaleza del Valle, in in Esmeraldas with Uoprocae, and also in Puerto Quito. It's another province that's not much known, but we also work with them with the producers called co-op called El Finquerito. So we're kind of using right now 5 cacao provinces and about 4,000 small cacao producers, family producers in the country. With this said, when we get to talk to a customer, we share with them, first of all, what's Ecuador about? What are the origins? What are the microclimates? And what's also the difference in flavor profiles between each of the provinces of the states that we work with? That's very unknown. It will kind of maybe for us that we're chocolate lovers or chocolatiers, that we're like every day talking about it or dealing with it, we might think that this is very common, but still it's unknown for many professionals in the industry. So then we actually do a tasting of products like this. Like, you know, we have little sample sets like this one. And then we have, for example, 370%. And then we're able to give to them the chocolates and, you know, to taste and to differentiate each of the nuances of the chocolates. And then they will kind of, you know, understand how this is happening, how this, like, you know, the flavor profiles can actually impact in their confections as well. And yeah, I'll say, like, you know, after that, of course, it comes the regular process for them trying the chocolate and being able to find out what's different. Some of the chocolatiers here actually have won food awards with our couvertures, and that kind of also, yeah, has brought some.
So you give them a choice of different provinces, different beans, different fermentations. But the other thing I think, which you're very famous for with your bars too, is that you do different roast profiles. So what gave you the idea of the different roast profiles? Because you do a flash roast, a virgin roast, a medium roast, and a dark roast, don't you?
Yes, we do that. We do that. So everything starts with the Nacional cacao. I have a picture of the Nacional cacao here. I hope everybody can see it. But with the Nacional, so I say, like, you know, when going back again of what I understand in my early days was like all these big corporations were making couvertures with different type of cacaos, but they were using only a part of a fine flavor cacao to develop their recipes, to of course upgrade the flavor, the flavor cacao chocolate of their couvertures. So then I say, like, why, like, you know, don't do a chocolate couvertures made only with 100 Nacional cacao? And that's how I started. So when I started, like, you know, roasting the cacaos, I say the only thing that I want to do is to highlight the personality of each of these cacao beans. I don't want to invite, I don't want to over roast, I just want to highlight. And between the tastings that we were doing, we were also discovering the different flavor profiles and the moment that each of these cacao beans were like kind of exploding the flavor profiles. So, and then, you know, I say, like, this can actually be something different. Like, people also were talking about the raw chocolate at that moment. It was like the boom of the raw chocolate. And I also started playing with, like, you know, flavor profiles of more kind of shortening roasts, because I don't think the raw exists, but, like, you know, how do we develop those flavor profiles that actually give you the flavor profile of a raw product, or like, you know, connect you directly with the cacao farm, with the fermentations, with the cacao pulp. Exactly. Connections. So then is that's what, like, we did it. So that's how it became the concept, starting with the flash roast for our raw line. I don't want to call it raw because it's not raw, but like, the virgin line that we call it. So we have the flash roast. Then we have the light roast for our more extended roasting styles, then medium roast and dark roast. So everything is about developing flavor profiles that only highlight the natural profile of the cacao bean itself.
And then do you find fermentation makes a big difference? Have you played around with fermentation on the farms?
I will say that fermentation is 100% where you develop flavor, or unfortunately, we
Yeah.
remove flavor of the cacao beans. Like, depending even in the type of chocolate that you want to do, like, it's so important, even if the moment that you harvest the cacao, like, because if you take much unripe cacaos, let's say for our raw process, if we want to have, a really good floral, fruity, like very cocoa pulp aromas of our cacao, we really have to be careful also in the time that we're harvesting and the type of pod that we're harvesting, because too unripe cacaos will also impact with much acidity, with much astringency in our cacao beans. So it's important. Every step of the harvest and post-harvest for us is very important.
Mm. And then you do also do some bars. So what's the logic behind the bars? We're very delighted that you have the bars, and we love the bars, and we love featuring them, and they're all-time favorites and everything. And you also do some flavored bars, but just tell us a little bit about the history of bars and everything else.
These are the yeah. So what happened that as we were developing, we have, of course, the couvertures, and we were going to shows, and people wanted to buy small versions of the couverture because they were loving very much, but the options were like 1 kilo or 250 grams. So people say, like, do you have a small option? So I say, yeah, we don't have it yet, but then we decided to develop the bars. But it was also another challenge, of course, because Spencer, like, like how interesting is the bars in the market. But it was really exciting and really fun for us to bring the bars, because that way we were able to connect with more people and also have the feedback of our products from more people. And of course, I will have to say that, like, after all years, we also have been able to understand that our bars are kind of a specialty chocolate bars, are not a very similar, like, bars that you will actually find in many places. But only like this line, the virgin line that we have, I'm going to talk about, for example, this 85% that we have right now. So, we were in Chocoa, and in Chocoa they usually do whiskey tastings or that different versions. So we have the taster from the whiskey company coming to us, and he's like, I heard you have an 85% chocolate. I don't know how he got to taste that or how he here, but he came straight looking for it. And we say, like, yeah, we do actually. And then he tried it, and it's like, yeah, this is exactly what I need, because we're going to do a whiskey tasting, and we need this good barrel wine fermentation flavor profile that go very aligned with this type of whiskey that we were going to do it. So it was very interesting for us, because we were kind of also insecure in the beginning of bringing this type of new flavor profiles on board. And then since then we were like, oh yeah, like, he find out all these flavor profiles in the bar, so let's also try it, and let's also kind of start telling the people what these experts find it. And that's what we did, and actually became one of our more specialty chocolate bars. So now we have different whiskey companies, beer companies, wine companies doing the tasting of the bars, and that's how most of the bars were kind of developed.
Yeah, it's interesting what you say about wine, because we find that your bars do go very, very, very well with different wines. And Carmenere, for example, there's something about Ariba Nacional. It sort of has some of that green, vegetal, earthy, and you put it on your pack, a winey flavor. So, I mean, I do strongly recommend them to anybody to go with any red wine. They will bring out the Cabernet Franc or Carmenere, Shiraz, they will bring it out in a beautiful way, or even a Grenache. But do you find, what time of day do you think people have your bars, and how do they have them? Because the traditional way of eating a snack piece of confectionery is you have it in the middle of the afternoon when you're feeling a bit sleepy. It's almost, you have it with your coffee to try and wake you up. You have it as a little reward. But do you find that's how people are having your bars, or do you find they have them at different times of the day in different ways?
Yeah, so we have about 18 bars right now. From that the number of bars, we kind of classified in more healthy bars, and also these specialty bars that we call it, and then we also have like the different inclusion bars. And I will say that it varies a little. A chocolate lover, or a person that like to do the whiskey tastings or so on, or kind of have like a tasting with cheese, wine, etc., I will see that it is more in the afternoon. But people that just want to kind of a snack and so on, I will say those are in this case our inclusion bars, like with golden berries and in those in the middle of the afternoon. But we also have these bars, like for example the quinoa and anise, that are more into the health people. Those were like we kind of find out that actually those are more in the middle of the day, around 11 or so time.
I think that's definitely true. I mean, and I think that adding a superfruit, or adding, sort of gives it the health food snack, and it gives people the justification to have a chocolate in the afternoon. They may be feeling a bit bad, but it's okay because it's got a superfood in it. And then you're right, sort of, the sort of with quinoa or with, something else, which makes it more like into a snack bar that you can sort of have it if you forgot breakfast and you need something just to get you through to lunch.
Yeah.
Because one of the origin uses for bars was actually for lunch. I mean, for breakfast rather, that people would have a bar on their way to work and they would do that sort of stuff with it. Have you thought about doing slightly smaller bars at all? Or is that too much?
We are actually, we are planning already for next year. But I think we're hoping, like, people will also see the updates that we're going to do, but we're going to kind of concentrate more in small bars, in doing some collections as well.
That's good.
Mini bars, because definitely we think, like, the range of bars that we have are kind of, again, a specialty chocolate that maybe 50 grams is too big for somebody that wants to enjoy.
Or they have to put them away and then sort of store them for a bit.
Yeah.
So what else are you thinking about doing next? Will you, because in the past you've done, I remember when you did the Opera Cow bar, I've just pronounced that incorrectly, but you basically worked with a bunch of people who otherwise wouldn't have stayed in cacao. There was a wonderful initiative you had about basically persuading, young farmers to keep working and sort of, encourage them to do that. Any other initiatives like that you have planned?
Well, we keep with that initiative with the
cacao
farmers. Yeah, we stay with them, and we're also doing this year the Cacao and Chocolate Summit that became a yearly event. for us as well. And that one is going to be May 24th and 25th. Now we're going to do a part presential event and part online event. So I think that's what's mostly happening this year for us. We will do also the cacao expeditions that we do yearly. That one is moving to September to the third quarter, actually. And regarding products, we develop a couverture, actually, a new coconut milk.
Oh, wow.
Dark chocolate couverture. Yes, that's we'll potentially also think on doing that one as a bar. But
I'll definitely do. We'll definitely take it. If you do it as a bar, we'll definitely place an order for you. Any trips to be coming to Europe? Any plans to be coming to Europe?
Not right now. Unfortunately, I wish we can go there very soon, but it's not happening for now.
We'll have to come and see you then
yes, please.
Okay, and what great new foods have you discovered now that you're in Michigan? Because you've moved from New York down to Michigan, haven't you?
Right. Sorry, can you
what
say
new
again?
foods, any new foods or any new drinks that you've discovered since you've moved from New York?
Oof. Well, a lot of food here, but you know, I think oh yeah. Thai, well, I think everybody knows Thai food, but I think, you know, Thai food I discovered here, and I love Asian food. We actually have the wasabi bar. And I think that's it. Not much options on food over here. That I miss New York.
That's the stuff to go for. We'll have to get you to have some good food when you come over here. Jenny, as ever, it's wonderful. Thank you so much for all that you do. It's lovely to see you. And, you know, we look forward to seeing you in Europe soon. I do have an initiative that I want to get you over here for. But we have lots of your great bars, and we'll be basically featuring those on the video too. And thank you so much.
Thank you, Spencer.